Hey guys, this is your girl Lira, and you're listening to Self Reflection Podcast. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Self Reflection Podcast. I'm truly grateful that you guys are here. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today, we are going to be talking to Matt. Matt is going to be giving us a little bit about his personal stories and also um, we're going to get into him as a young man overcoming his struggles, being a Black man in America, and also overcoming the foster system in America and what that has been. Also, he's going to be talking about spirituality and how he found himself in that space. So we're going to dive right in. Please help me welcome Matt. Hi, Matt.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. So I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself real quick. I know I gave a short, brief introduction of who you are. And I know I also asked you
Right.
to send me a quick bio of like what you wanted me to present. And some of the things you said you were, one of your purpose you feel like is that you are assigned here to also uplift people and support people to find their higher self, their souls in this day and age. So can you please introduce yourself and give us a little bit more background on what you meant by that?
On the assignment itself, is that what you're asking me?
Yes.
No, uplifting. Okay, so what I mean by that is we're all born and brought here in the world with an assignment, but not everybody finds the purpose of their existence here and why God brought you here. Um, when I found my purpose, it all made sense because you're actually doing a justice for God's children and you're changing lives. And if you're not here being a service to the world in some form of nature, then actually you're living a lie. And it took me a while to figure that out. But of course, you're gonna hit a few bumps in the road. You're not gonna be able to figure it out right away. You're gonna get led astray. And it's really easy to fall into temptation. And this is where prayer comes involved, where you're really going to have to sit with self in order to understand your sole purpose here. And when you do find it, you'll see that it's going to be a lot of lives that's going to be affected by it, whether it's good or evil, because we all have a job here to do, the good ones and the bad ones. Let's just be honest, right? So that's what I mean by that, once I tapped in, and I found my soul purpose, it explains what I was here to do. And it took me a while to figure it out, but it's not that hard to figure out. You just got to sit with self. It's really simple. It's not hard. It's not, mathematics and you got to subtract and add and suffer. No, let's make it real simple. It's what you love to do. That's a service to the world. And it really costs you nothing. You cannot even get paid anything from it. And it just makes your soul feel good and it's changing lives. And you can find it just by sitting down. That's it. And learning thyself. So yeah,
Absolutely.
please.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I think we're going to get more into that topic later on in the podcast episode. Do you want to give us a brief introduction of who you are, where you come from, and so forth?
All right. Um, so I'm born and raised, well, somewhat raised in Brooklyn, New York. Um, as a child, I was in Jamaica at the age of 5, um, all the way up until about, let's say about 9, 10. And I went to school in Jamaica. And that's Kingston, Jamaica, the country that is, not Queens, Jamaica, Queens, because we have Jamaica, Queens in New York. But my family has a cultural background of West Indian, and mother and father is both Jamaican. Mother and father is both from Kingston, and they migrated here young, and they had me in their early age, like teenage age, something like 18, 19 years old, you know. And what happened was when I was born, my mom wasn't really ready for a child. I'm what you call an accident baby. But however, it's a gift from God, of course, because God makes no mistakes. So she sent me off to Jamaica to go to school and to stay with my grandmother. And it was there when I started to realize that you know, the discipline is where I got my mannerisms and how far it can get you, and the doors that can open from being respectful and being responsible. You know what I mean? That's what really made me. So I have a mixture of both the New York mindset, you know what I mean, the Americanized mindset, and I also have the West Indian background. You know what I mean? So mesh it together, is why I am who I am and why I do what I do.
Yes, I agree. I agree 100% too, because I come from Cameroon, similar background. I grew up there a little bit, and then I grew up in the US, so I can definitely relate to that. And you know, being raised by your grandmother, I know there's all of that wisdom that was probably transferred onto you without her even knowing that she was doing that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly. But it's not easy. What I realize, it's not easy to embrace your cultural background because here in United States, we were laughed at and joked at and frowned upon as foreigners. We know all the jokes that was made, the coconuts, the monkeys, the this, the that. You know what I mean? They don't speak good English, blah blah.
African booty scratcher.
Yeah, the African booty scratcher. Trust me, Jamaicans got a lot of bad rep too. It's all the same. They just love us for our music, but it's not really easy growing up because when I came back, I couldn't really speak proper English, so I was stuck in the patois. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And it took me a while. My mother used to try to beat it out of me, believe it or not. She was begging me to stop talking like that. But, I embraced it because I can understand it and I understand both sides. And, I'm more open to other nationalities and understand it doesn't matter where you come from, it's about who you are, you
yeah,
know. And yeah.
yeah. I know a little bit about your background, and when you talked about like your mother used to trying to beat your accent out of you, which is something now that in today 2023 people actually love hearing accents.
Accents now. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
that's a big thing now. If you have an accent, you're him. Like
No, I think it's because of the curiosity of uh it's kind of like something that you're not used to. It's like putting a little gravy on a steak. You know what I mean? You want to enjoy another background, another nationality, another cultural background. You know what I mean? Instead of the same old same. And it also does. We are also known of a sense of dominance because we're coming from third world countries where the struggle was a lot more, real. So to hear that, you know what I mean, is like, okay, you can hear the dominance, you can hear the passion within a
yeah,
lot of Indians. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So when when we're talking off camera, you mentioned you and your mom kind of split during
Mm.
around the age of 12,
Yeah.
and
Right.
you had to go to the foster home. How hard was that for you?
Oh, it was tough. It's like going into the unknown, almost as a child. And, you're going around a strange family,
Hmm.
you know, being taken away from my mom. It was the hardest thing that ever happened to me, but sometimes I feel it was the greatest thing because if I would have stayed any longer, I probably would have been dead. And that's just to be honest, it was probably all designed for God to make that happen. And also to use me as a walking testimony because actually what don't kill you make you stronger. I also look at it now, like, I think now I can be the voice and the reason of a lot of teenage, you know, um, girls and women, and men that are going through struggles of being detached from their parents, being detached from their home, being stripped away, being misunderstood, being abused, neglected, mentally abused, physically abused. I had all of it. So I can reason with it and understand it, and know that it's happening because of something within the parent. It has nothing to do with you. And I think a lot of kids would need to hear that that's struggling from any type of victimization, whether it's the mental abuse, physical, whatever, or neglect. It's not you, it's the parent. And a
Yeah,
lot of times we don't get to hear that. We think, we wish we would. I mean, when I was being abused with my mom, I used to say, I wish I was never born during the child abuse. And she would respond like, yeah, and I wish I could push you back inside of me and get rid of you. And it was painful hearing it. And it took for me to hit my 30s to look at it and say, that was just a reflection of her, what's inside of her that she was projecting onto me. It was something that was unhealed within her. And I had to learn to forgive that. And there's kids that commit suicide because they feel that lack of love, that lack of empathy. Nobody understands. You know what I mean? Not
Yeah.
one. Yeah. And I wish somebody would have told me at an early age that it has nothing to do with you, because I hated my mom for years and years and years. And actually, during my spiritual journey is when I forgave, when I found God, is when I was able to understand and forgive her, when I found out her story, that her dad abused her. So it was, generational curses that was, going through the family, and I had to be the one to break it. The only way to break it is to forgive.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love what you just said right there. The only way to, break it is to forgive. I think a lot of times when we hold on to things, like that's the reason why we're in pain for the most part.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's yeah, it's traumas, and then, a lot of times, we don't realize we have past childhood traumas within ourselves that's stopping us from growing spiritually, financially, mentally, physically, whatever it is. It is going to stump your growth. You got to find it and destroy it and forgive and move on.
I
Yeah,
agree. So when you were talking about like your mom, like, abusing you and how it stemmed from her parents, like
mm,
also abusing her physically,
right.
as a young father.
Mm,
Oh, are you like, I think we spoke and you said you had kids, right?
yeah, I do. I have two boys.
Okay, okay. I was like, am I confusing this? But as a young father, how do you seek to break that cycle
Mhm,
moving forward with your kids?
mm. It's so simple. You know, the easiest way to break that, and when I speak, I like to speak for everybody. I want to speak it out for people, not just mine. So when I'm responding, I want to respond and say, how you guys that are listening and watching is to break the curse of generations that was, before you, to break the curse. You know what I mean? How to make your kids feel good. And to answer your question as well, is to love them and teach them how to love themselves. That's it. Kids don't need material. Kids don't need a bunch of money. Kids don't need a mansion. Kids need love. They need to know that they love and they can handle the rest. And how I do it, again, to answer what you were saying, is I tell my son I'm proud to be his father, you know? And that's what a lot of times people don't do that for their kids.
Yeah.
I'm happy I'm your dad. I'm happy I got a chance to be your father. You know what I mean? It's a
Mm.
difference.
Yes.
You're a handsome young man, you know that? That's love. These are all words that, if just formulate love.
Hmm.
To tell a kid, hey, you're very smart, you're amazing, I'm proud of you. That cuts off any access to the outside world to make them feel less than, to break their spirit. Because you're already at home doing the work, building their spirit. So there's nobody they can't, there's no interceptions at all.
Absolutely.
You can't interrupt. You know what I mean? So because it starts in the home.
Hmm.
It starts in the home.
I
And
agree.
love conquers all. So at the end of the day, if the kid's not getting no love in home, then this is the reason why violence is the way it is now. This is the reason why there's so many young teenagers out there that they're killing themselves and killing others, because it starts in the home.
And moving into that as a father, um, not also having your dad in the home, how did that, or any other person, because I think you want to bring this more into broader conversation with any other young black man, just, or young black boy that's growing up or did grow up without a father, how did that impact your mental health, and how can you like word of encouragement to support them deal with that space that they're in right now?
You know, not having a father was a gift and a curse. And I know it might sound strange to say why it was a gift, because you have fathers, some fathers can actually be in the home, but not be there.
Yeah.
Physically there, but you're mentally somewhere else. So in retrospect, I'll say I'd rather not have one at all.
Mm.
Because you have some dads that's in the home and they're abusing the mom, they're abusing alcohol, they're physically abusing the kid because he had a hard day at work. So it's like your presence is not really needed. You're actually making it worse. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And now you're actually building up more trauma for me in my life, and not and having no real direction of what a man is really all about. So I'd rather accept the fact that my dad, he ran away, and he made his mistakes and I forgave him, by the way. But he made females and his money the most important thing. And he didn't want the family. But what it allowed me to become is a better and a stronger man at an early age,
Mm.
and to be able to give my kids and pass on the knowledge, and to be able to help another young man in the street.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it made me become a man even faster. Now, how to answer the last question, how can these kids do that? I'm going to say today's day, you have so much more opportunities to learn and to be a better person in the palm of your hands, opposed to when I was growing up, I had to live it, out in the streets, and make my mistakes, by going to prison, I mean, going to jail, fighting and losing money and chasing after women. But nowadays, you can learn something from the palm of your hand. It's the cell phone. So it's much more easier to say, hey, how can I do this? How can I do? And Google give it to you, YouTube give it to you, and I'm still learning from the cell phone. I don't have time maybe to read a book, and I want to become better at something. I research it and I listen to an audio book, or, download Audible, and I develop myself to become better. So I would write down some of the things that was wrong with me that I wanted to fix, and I figure out how I could fix it. I'll go into the phone now as I'm an adult, and I'll look up, hey, you can get over this by doing this. Okay, well, I'm going to try it and see if it works. You know what I mean? And find a great role model is important. Find a great role model. Study, your role models. In order to be successful, you have to stand on the shoulders of giants. You have to stand on the shoulders of giants, and you watch what they do, and you can mimic what they do and see if it works for you. But don't just let people lead you astray. And I know that's probably hard for somebody young to understand, but if he has something that you're looking forward to having as you get older, then you probably should do some research behind him, legitimately find out what it is that he did to get to where he is. Find you a great role model, somebody positive.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Adding on to that, like roughly 67% of young men are actually being raised, roughly 67% of young men are actually being raised by single mothers,
Mm.
in today's days and age. And seeing how the men in our society today are growing up in such dysfunction way, and not really aligned with their higher self, their higher purpose. um you finding yourself in this space that you're in, how can you guide young give a advice or guide a young man that is so discombobulated in this space right now?
Hmm. The funny thing is, I had that issue with my son. It's a such thing. Sometimes you gotta, when it comes to men that are steadfast and young men that are ready, so misguided, so way off track. It's sad to say, but you're gonna have to snatch it from the root. And what I mean by that, they would have to be dismantled in order to rebuild. And I know it sounds horrible. I know it is, because sometimes there's people, adults and and young people as well. There's adults and teenagers that are so off track that the only way they can bounce back is from devastation.
Mhm.
It's a total destruction. Like, it has to be destroyed in order for it to be rebuilt.
Yeah.
And how that comes about is, what happened to me is going to juvie at a young age. I had to be sat down in order to hear God. I had to be sat down to find out who I was. I had to be sat down to realize I like to read books. I had to be sat down to realize I like to write. I had to be sat down to figure out everything that was of positivity about myself. Because when you're running 1,000 miles an hour and you whatever it is they do, they smoking, they drinking, they gambling, whatever it is they doing, hustling, scamming, I don't care what it is. You can't hear God. You can't hear your instincts. You can't hear yourself. I don't care what you believe in. You can't hear your inner being to
Yes.
tell you that's not right, that's good, that's wrong, that's not right. You can't hear that because you have so much going on and there's so many people that you're surrounded by when you're young. You don't really know what energy is when you're young, when you're moving around half the time. So you're just going off the wind. And there's a book that I read that I fell in love with. It's called Outwitting the Devils. Outwitting the Devil. And they spoke about the devil loved drifters. And I had to really tap in and break it down. I went back to it about 3 times because I never realized, and I'm in my 30s now and I read that book and I'm like, oh, so when this happened and that happened, and I'm looking, reflecting on my life when I was young. For one, an idle mind is a devil's playground.
Mhm. I agree.
If you're not busy, excuse me, of doing anything positive, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna jam yourself up and get caught up in something you don't want to be involved with because you really don't have any plan. And a man or woman without a plan plans to fail. You know, you have no direction. So the only way to really get back on track is something has to happen. Something has to shift in your life to make you say, you know what, I'm not taking that route and I'm going to go this way now. Because we do need more leaders. Yes, we do. We need more leaders that's going to really be, you know, I don't want to say the superheroes or the mascots or the motivational speakers because all those names, it's not working. But
Yeah.
we need them in high places. Let's just say that. You know what I mean? We need more
Mhm.
leaders in high places. We do. We need more men that are encouraged with doing what's right and uplifting the youth and the hearts of others and just loving thy neighbor. But it's going to take a village. It's going to take a lot of us to do that. It's going to take a major shift. And, so it's sad to say that we're going to lose a lot of our youth, you know what I mean, to the penal system, which is prison, jail, Spofford, I don't care what it is. We're going to lose a lot of them to, drugs, alcohol, all the things of the devil's sins,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And they're going to have to be broken, the ones that do make it, that give in and repent and decide to say, well, I'm going to take that walk. Something traumatic has to happen for that, to really kick in for them. And it's sad because if there's not too many fathers in the home, then there's nobody going to push them for greatness, But let me not drag it. Go ahead. Next question.
No, I always say this, like when I have guests on the podcast, I want them to talk the most because I'm usually here talking by myself. And I believe my audience definitely, want to hear someone else bring on a new, fresh perspective to them. So
Right,
please, if you have anything you want to share, drag it on as much as possible.
right,
um,
right.
so when it comes on to the fathers that are not in the home, because I feel like that's something that you experience as well. For all those fathers that are out there right now, you know, very dismissive to their home and not being, I can't say whatever circumstances that actually makes them not want to be in the home, but for the fathers that aren't part of their children's life,
Right.
what advice, I don't want to say advice, but what conversation would you like to like share with them right now so that they can, if they're hearing this podcast and they can see how much like their present is needed and their present is being felt not being there as well.
Right. um, First thing first, I want to say this. You you got to understand that when there is no man in the home, and it's only, and I know this is like controversial right now because people, oh, I can do what a man can do, and da, da, da. It doesn't work like that. Every family, I want to say, every boy, every young girl needs their dad in the home or the presence of their dad. It's the balance, first and foremost. It's the balance. Um, when there's just a woman and there's a man presence missing, it affects them with age, with time. And you can tell because they don't know how to treat a man. They don't know the value of a man. They don't know, what a man is his value is in the home. You know what I mean? And they grow up and they're so misguided and misled and so led astray by other men because I want to say women. Let's just give it to women first, right? You'll see women out here and they don't know themselves. They don't know their value. They don't feel love. So they're looking for love outside of themselves. And it's so easy to be misled because you never was taught by a man what to look for within a man because you're the living, breathing, walking example. And when a young girl, let's go for like I said, with the young girls, right? The father is the first husband.
Mhm.
The
Right.
father is the first husband, of course, without the other. Don't say that, people hear this and be like, what kind of sickness is that? But you get what I mean. He
Yes,
is
yes,
what
no, yes,
reflection
no.
of what a husband would be to the daughter. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? That's what she looks for within the man. Now, with the boy, the mom needs to be there as well because the mom is the first wife. It's what he's going to look for within a woman, what she projects onto him as a young child growing up. And kids are like sponges, so they pick up these habits. So now when you have the balance within, and the girl has the dad at home, and she see how mommy treats dad, she knows what to do as she get older, and see how dad treats her like a queen. It's all love. It's a family dynamic. It's a union, a healthy union.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And with the boys now, if they don't have the mom, they are easily manipulated by women now when they get outside in the streets. And it happened to me. It happened to me. This is why we talk about the red pill, blue pill, and men are suckers, but we never have the empathy to say he did not have an example of a mom in his life.
Mhm.
So how is he to not know or to know what a good or a bad woman is? So now he has to go out there in the world thinking that, hey, well, she made me a spaghetti and a sandwich. That means she loves me. And now I'm going to sacrifice my whole life for her. But he missed all the other warning signs now because he just wanted the love. You know what I mean? He never really had the mother figure to know what a good woman was. But if you didn't see your mom doing right by your dad and you can see the example, you're looking for that in that woman. When you see one little thing, you're like, oh, no, I'm not doing that. That's not how my mother got down. I can see it. I don't want it. Your eyes are more open to it. You can understand it and you can run away and walk away from certain situations. But without that balance, man, X and Y chromosomes, masculine and femininity into the household is very important. It is. It's very important. And if the relationship is over to these dads and it don't work, I just say, hey, do the best you can from where you at and what you got. And let that child know that you love them and give all the game that you got in life, all the knowledge that you soaked up. You know what I mean? All the mistakes you learned throughout your life, pass it on to that child because that's what we're really here to do.
Yeah.
To have your legacy carry on. And it's vice versa when it comes to the young girls. They need that from their mom. They need that from their mom as well. When us boys, we need it from the dad. And it's just the yin, we need it. XY chromosome is very important, masculine and feminine, the negative and the positive. It's all one, it's all conjunction. And it's all power for that child to be grow up to be something great, you know. And I don't know how a man can be in the world and not put his best foot forward and be in his kid life, because here's the thing. Twice a child, once an adult. You come out young and then eventually you're going to get so old, you're going to be in a baby stage again, and that child is going to be the one to take care of you.
Absolutely.
You're going to need somebody to push that wheelchair around, just like when you needed somebody to push the baby carriage around. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you do right by your kid, 9 times out of 10, they're going to make sure that you're taken care of. And the curse that come with being a deadbeat, I don't think I'll ever want that. You cannot put a child out there in the universe, bring a child out here, God bless you and give you a kid and abandon it. You can't do that. You can't do it. You can't do it. You got to put your best foot forward.
You know
And
what? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
But I don't know. Sorry, let me just say this. I don't know how some men do it, but I would say to them that your success relies on the seeds that you sow. So if you sow it back, you sow a seed and put a seed out into this world, and you didn't water it and you left it to rot and dry, you best believe you're gonna witness something eventually, and it's not gonna be good. It's not gonna be good, and you're gonna have to face that on Judgment Day. You're gonna have to face that. That is a whole human being. That is a soul, and that's a blessing that God gave you because kids are blessings. Kids are blessings.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but I just wanted to leave it there and tell you that because I know somebody needs to hear that. They don't realize that you're gonna get old one day and you're gonna need that child. So be careful how you treat them now. But
yeah.
you got
Thank you. I love that. I think one of the things you said was how, the parents grow older and then the kids take care of them.
yeah.
Growing up in an African home or knowing back like what happens back home is like the parents or our grandparents get old and they stay at home with us or in the
Mm,
kids' home.
yeah.
But here I've noticed like, also working in the field, I've noticed like a lot of like the senior homes, the children don't visit their parents.
Hmm,
And I wonder if that has like a correlation of what you have been saying right now. It's
yeah.
like you bring a child into this world and you don't water it and they don't, you don't nurture it to grow. At some point, they kind of just, move on with their life. Not to say that I'm saying every day you should be spending time with your parents at the senior home or in your home, but I wonder if, that has some type of,
Hmm.
I don't know, relations with it.
Yeah, because it's just ungratefulness. A lot of times when when they get older and they get mid-age 50s, they feel like, oh, my mom lived their life already. I heard that about from my grandmother kids. Like, they got to live their lives already. They'll be all right. I got what I got, and that's to be expected, it's to be expected. So when you do it, you don't do it, raise your kids to look for anything back,
Yeah.
but you did a good job and your deeds are done. You know what I mean? You can rest in peace. You can rest peacefully, whether it's alive or when you're dead. You can rest peacefully to know that you did a good job. So that goes back to how you feel within, you know. Whether the kid that comes and sees you or not, they have a responsibility on their end as well, because it tells you in the Bible to honor your mother and father, or else what? Your days will be numbered. So, you got to be careful, because you don't honor your mother and father, you also can have a curse over you. That's not a good thing. I ain't saying you're supposed to chase them down and kiss their behind because you got some parents that probably not worthy, but give them the respect, you
Yeah.
know, and honor the fact that they brought you in the world, especially when they did the best they can do for you. But it's sad to say, people make time for what's important. And if that person's not important to you, you ain't gonna make time, and that's okay. That's cool. But eventually you're gonna miss that person when they pass on, because we're not here to stay. You know,
Yeah.
we're all going out soon. That's the promising thing with life. So do the best you can while you're here. And I don't know why we make it this simple. Like, even having this conversation, why are we making it this simple? You have one life to live. You do the best you can do while you're here. Treat everybody right. Handle your business. Be honest. Take care of your responsibilities. And the blessings is for you. It's there. And move on. What is the problem?
Yeah. And
It was
I think
complicated, but
I think that's the thing also with like the system. When I like the system is like moral training isn't like, and I don't want to say training, but moral training isn't like I don't know if I want to say a basic thing here, because how like when I was young, I used to see the way the children treat the older people here, and I would get really upset of how like a young child would talk to their like older parents or like someone older in the community or the teachers,
yeah.
and that kind of like stare me in a really weird way.
Right. Well, you know what? I know what you were saying about training, but what you said, well, I'm help you with that. It's not how should I say, it's
I don't
not one
think
of
training was
the
the right.
first, it's not, what I mean? It's not one of the most important things that parents do here, and I want to say America. You know what I mean? I don't want to bash my country, you know what I mean? But like, oh, he's talking about America, but American people, but it's not everybody. And
Mhm.
one of the things I realized when I was in New York City, there was a lot of that. Morality, respect wasn't important. It wasn't a priority. But when I came down to the South now, it was more traditional way of living. It's the closest thing. If you notice it, people here in the South, you see the dreads, you see they have the cultural, Caribbean type of, structural background. You know what I mean? It's the closest you're gonna get to it. They got the soul food, they got the dreads, they got their own style of fashion. They love the barbecue. They respect their grandmas. The grandmas are still grandmas out here, most of them. You know what I mean? They have their little accent. They're into spirituality more in the South. Which this is one of the reasons why I left New York, because this was the closest I was gonna get to my West Indian cultural background. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
you'll notice that here they don't play that. A lot of people in the South don't play that. You know what I mean? But when I was in New York, California, some parts of California, sad to say, you know what I mean? It was a lot more like that because it's more city, the urban lifestyle. You know what I mean? It's more of, I don't want to say, this projects or the I don't want to say bottom feeder mindset, but it's more of a impoverished mindset. And when you have a impoverished mindset, morality is not important. It's not the first priority.
Absolutely.
People here have rich souls and rich spirits. Most people, a lot of people from the South, they have that. A lot of people from the Caribbeans, they have that. But the more city you go, is the worse it gets. You know what I mean? The more, sometimes even suburban, because it's silver spoon. You know what I mean? They don't have to do that because they're born rich. So it's like, who cares? You know what I mean? But us that had to stay close to God, you know what I mean, on this side, and that are more in nature and more with love and more churches, they have the morality. And these are all the things that surrounds itself with having a God like, spirit,
Mhm.
the people that pray, the people that understands, you know. But if you don't have that, then it's not gonna happen. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
go to Atlanta. I mean, I'm in Georgia, but I go to Atlanta. You don't really see much kids, and if you do, they sure don't have no manners. They don't hold no doors. Nobody like that. You're not gonna get that out there. I'm sad to say, but it's like that, because it turns into a city. So it's not gonna be there. It's sad, but it is what it is.
How do you see that manifesting in our society today?
Man, oh my God. Um, it's bad, but I'm gonna say this. I think the only way it can get better is we just can only control our house, your castle.
Mhm.
You can only control what you can control and let that energy be transferable on others. You know, um, we're up against social media. Parents are up against social media, and sorry to say, they might not agree with me, but you probably won't win unless you take away technology. How can a child flick on his phone and see a man laying in his bed eating a sandwich worth millions, right? And respect the hardworking dad or mom that's getting up every day to make ends meet? It's a teenager now. Their mind just like a sponge. You got people on social media that's making millions of dollars, literally just combing their hair, showing hair products. You got people that's cursing and carrying on, that's acting out in the most devilish way, and they're worth millions of dollars. Now here I come now, right? I'm the average. Let's say me. I'm not the average working dad because I have a business, but the average working man. He goes to work, construction, whatever it is. He comes home. The mom works. Everybody works, and they saying, "Hey, you need to do this, that, and go read a book and become this." And yeah, this is what I had to do. But then they flip on their phone and they see a man 24, 23 years old. He's a millionaire, and all he's doing is cussing, drinking, smoking, and doing everything, you know, that's not of God. And he's rich. Like, why would I listen to you?
Yeah.
I have this to look forward to. So this is what you're up against. And it's millions of people only showing the good, by the way. And remind you, they just still kids, though. They're kids. They're easily manipulated, easily influenced. And you as a parent would have to be up against that. So it's gonna be very hard for us to, as parents, and being the mothers and fathers to these children and trying to raise them to have morals and principles, to really get them to, act in a godlike manner. It's gonna be hard unless you take away the technology, because you're up against a serious, serious machine. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not. You would have to have some serious principles. Hey, we're going to put age restrictions. I'm taking at this time. You have to show them this is not real. Social media. It's a lot of work. It's work within itself. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it here. I had to show my son because he was so like impressed with. I think I don't know if it's NBA YoungBoy or whatever video it was. One of the rappers, right?
Yeah.
He thought that everything that was going on in the video was real. So I had to sit him down. I was like, "You're too fascinated." And he was like, "Oh, Dad, that's dope." And I said, "No, hold on. Let me help you with this." And I had to type in on YouTube making of this video, making of that video, and showed him that they're acting. The car's not his. They brought the rental in. The girl is reason that she's preparing herself. This is a setup. It's all to paint an illusion. It's not real. They're only showing you the good stuff. This is not how it. And he's like, "Wow." So this is not. I'm like, "No, it's not real.
Yeah.
What you see on TV is staged. It's not real. They planned this. This is not the real personality. This might not even be the rapper's car. It might not even be his jewelry. It might not be his house. I know people renting mansions to do videos. It's not real. So you have to really show the kids that. If you don't show them that, they easily impressed and thinking, I'm going to grow up and be just like him. And then you're following a whole illusion right now. Like, you don't even know what you're following. Social media only show you the good. I showed you the good. I look crazy before this, but I got myself together to be on here, right? I'm showing you the good, but I'm speaking from my heart, but I'm showing you the good side. Not knowing a minute ago I had a hole underneath my t-shirt. You know what I mean? Like, we can't get fooled by that at all,
Yeah.
But that's why I say it's a machine, you know what I mean? And you're up against a powerful machine, and I don't know. It's good. You just got to take care of your house. Do the best you can with yours in your home, and hope that that energy festers over and let them become walking, living, breathing examples. You know what I mean? And even you as a parent, 30-year-old, 20, I don't care what you are, be the example. You know what I mean? And don't follow suit on what's going on out there as well, because you got dudes my age acting like the dudes on television, like on the videos,
Yeah.
social media. Like this is crazy.
Yeah, we're gonna get back to parent acting like parents, but you mentioned all these rappers, and I remember one time I saw one of your videos on TikTok, and you were talking about Little Uzi and this conversation that you and him had, very light conversation you guys had. I wanted you to share that story on here a little bit, because I think that might also help with people just understanding that some of these artists, real, especially the young youths today, some of these artists literally are like crumbling from the inside, and their true personality, their true selves aren't being allowed to be shown, and they themselves don't even have any control over that, which is like the biggest and the most saddest thing ever.
It's true. It is sad, but they chose it. You know what I mean? And we do have a choice to sign on the dotted line and make an agreement to sell your soul, sell your happiness, sell your peace,
Yeah.
sell your manhood. There's some that do it too, for $1. But I want to say I met a lot of people just besides Lil Uzi. You know what I mean? He's just one of them. You know what I mean? And I know a lot of people that are of stature that have a lot of money, and they're broken inside. They're not happy because when you get into certain industries, whatever it is, when it comes to making money, you have to sacrifice a part of yourself in order to obtain that, to stay in the lifestyle that you want to live. You know what I mean? And to keep the contracts and to do what it is that they want you to do. And it breaks them inside. And I met a lot of them, during, my time working for this limousine business. And I met a lot of those people. And not all of them were broken, but the ones that I thought were happy were not happy. You know what I mean? He was just one that it kind of broke my heart. It did. And I know I did that video, so I can't run from it now. So, but I want to say this. It broke my heart because when I met him, you know, that morning at the Wardrobe Hotel, he was way off. And I knew something was wrong because I'm real spiritual. But again, a lot of time God put his people everywhere, and like we don't know that, you know what I mean? And he didn't know how connected I was, with God and spirituality. And I can feel his energy. And anytime I see a man chain smoke, I know something is wrong, you know. And throughout the day, you know, I was told, because we're not really supposed to have conversations with the artists, you know what I mean, or the big, A-list celebrities or anything like that. But, at the time I felt like with the music he was playing in the car, it sounded real impressive. And it didn't sound like the typical music that I was hearing, you know, on Apple Music, Spotify, whatever else, the stuff that he was putting out, he's promoting. And I asked him, I was like, "Is this you?" That's the only thing I didn't say nothing else. I know I'm not supposed to bother them, And he said, "Yeah, and this is how I want to rap, but I can't because it's not what I signed up for." And it was right then and there as I started to think about all the other celebrities, all the other artists. And we had a great conversation. He leaned forward and the vibe was amazing. And it's like he poured his heart out. And I felt bad when I left him that night. He actually didn't want me to leave. He wouldn't want me to not come back the next day. He was with his girlfriend, JT. And I dropped him back over at the Waldorf and he asked me to come back because he liked my spirit. He liked my energy because he was able to let go and release and be himself. And I told him, I said, bro, you can't go live a lie. You're not gonna be happy. And if all these other artists could do it, like J. Cole and all these other people, then you can do it. And he said, yeah, but this is what they want me to do, and this is not really me. And I was like, damn, so I started to think about, I never really watch a lot of his stuff, honestly, because I don't really study rappers like that. I'm from the 80s, so I don't really pay no mind. But if I come across it, I do. So I went back to it and I had to tap in to see the walk wasn't his. That's not his walk. The act that he act, that's not how he really act.
Yeah.
And he's really like a kid to me personally. He had a kid-like spirit. And he wanted to be happy, but he signed off, obviously, on the dotted line. And whatever's in that contract, which I don't know, is something that he just has to, he can't bleach the contract. He has to stay committed to. And again, he's not the only one that I met. I don't need to do much name dropping or anything like that, but I met a lot of people that are millionaires and they're broken. And if you look at what the Bible said, what does a man profit the world and lose his soul? You gain the world and lose your soul. And there's a lot of them out there like that. And I think we have to realize as people, you got to be rich at spirit mainly, you know, and then everything else follows up. And I know that's hard because we want material gain. We want to drive the nice cars. We want the $1 million homes. We want the picket fence. We want everything, everything we dreamed about, the American dream. But if it calls you to sacrifice your happiness, it's not really worth it because you're dead inside. And I don't think a lot of those guys, when they signed off, and these guys, women, men, whoever, when they signed off to these agreements and these contracts, they was considering that their lives no longer belongs to them. I don't think they did. And this is why you see a lot of times they try to wiggle themselves out of those contracts. This is why a lot of times when they on live, they're emotional. This is why they drink the way they do and they getting caught doing drugs and this, that, and third, because they're not happy. When a soul is not fulfilled, it tends to look for fleshly desires to mask the pain, to cover it up, to soothe them. This is why they have been desensitized and they talk the way they do about women and they over sexualize. This is why doing drugs and pills is nothing to them because they're desensitized to that. So they just keep going up and up and up until they eventually kill themselves. So yeah, I seen it with my own eyes, and it's sad, yeah, but a lot of them chose it, but their spirits is begging for something else because when you come in the presence of a light worker and somebody that's of God, you're gonna pour out like a baby, and that's basically what he did. It's like he found finally somebody that didn't need anything from him, that was really there for his greater good, you know. But it was so long ago, if he could even remember that, things that be going on, I wish him well. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think you also like, I think one thing is like when we, strive to get all these worldly things, right? We're doing it the backwards way to me. Because
Mhm.
it's like once you find your soul, once you find your inner self, you're connected to the God within you, everything else becomes easier or everything else align itself the way it needs to.
Yeah, I just said that today. It finds you.
Yeah,
It's weird because that's how it is. When you find yourself, things find you. What's looking for you will find you because you found yourself. That's just all you're doing. It's a law of attraction.
absolutely.
You don't even have to no longer have to go searching for it. It'll find you. It'll make its way to you. You'll bump into certain things at the right time and place. That's how it works. That's how law of attraction works because you're in alignment. You can't get in alignment without knowing thyself and being one with yourself. You know what I mean? After I meditate, everything works out. You start seeing angel numbers. You think about a spot, the spot open up. You start thinking about, man, I need some money. Then you get a text message, hey, I got this money for you. It keeps happening and happening and happening. You become a master manifester
Absolutely.
once you're in alignment. That's a little deeper on the spiritual side, but you can,
Yeah,
you can manifest what you want rapidly, consistently with being one with yourself. But when
yeah,
you're out of whack, and then you go for wake up in the morning and say, hey, I just want to hurry make this money so I can go to the club tonight and ball, you're gonna have a long day. It's gonna be a long day for you to get to that goal. You know what I mean?
yeah, I agree, because when you're vibrating from a higher consciousness, everything else vibrates on that same frequency. So,
Absolutely.
um,
Absolutely.
how did you find spirituality?
Oh, good question. Getting my ass kicked now. Getting my ass kicked in the world. Well, anyway, oh man, I want to say I found God first, 25, when I had a near-death experience, which led me to spirituality.
Mm,
Um, yeah, my near-death experiences when I was in my mid-20s, and I want to say I had a. They say near-death, but it's like I had a rebirth.
mm,
You know
I, I
what I mean?
love that.
I went through a rebirth. I went through a spiritual awakening, a spiritual ascension, um, and became closer to God. And when I was brought back to life, I was in a 3-day coma that felt like a snap of a finger, and it really felt like this, but it was 3 days, and I didn't even know. When I woke up, handcuffed to the bed, and everything around me, became that much greater. You know what I mean? Brighter. It became like it's like the beauty of the world itself and people. It like it just like liberated after that. You know what I mean? And I couldn't see these things because I was in the dark. And this is why I talk about that on one of my videos about energy vampires, because I was amongst so many energy vampires growing up in Brooklyn. And when I got here to Georgia, I didn't know how to handle peace. So I was looking for chaos. So now here it is. I beat up 4 police officers. Um, and got handcuffed and still fighting for my life, and I went through a lot and wound up on Wright Street, and I was in Fulton County, after I left the hospital from the coma, and it was the first time they said anybody in the cells where I was ever prayed together. And it's like when I was in there, I can hear God louder and louder. Like, okay, you get who I am, who you are, you know what you're here to do. And, are you ready to go home? And I can see the miracles happen before my eyes. Like, okay, you got one more assignment. Talk to your bunk, the guy in your bunk right there, and tell him about God, and you'll be going in the morning. I'm like, how is this possible? I'm facing 20 years. I'm facing 20 years in Fulton County, Rice Street, for beating up 4 police officers. And I literally heard God come to me in my bed and said, okay, after I finished speaking, I did what God told me to do. And I went and laid down and said, you know who you are? I was like, yes, my name is Matthew Samuel. I'm one of Jesus' disciples. Like, okay, now what do you want? I'm like, I'm ready to go home and do your work and live right. And the next morning they called me and told me, Matthew Samuel, pack it up. and I was gone.
Dang.
Yeah. Next morning, I was bailed out, and I also beat the case. They threw it out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I
So
God is
there was nothing a man on earth can tell me to make me walk away from my spirituality, my belief in God.
yeah.
The things that I've seen, the things I've been through. That's not man's work, that's God's work. I literally see miracles happen before my eyes. But I went through that because I was straddling on the fence. You
Mm.
know,
You
I
wanna
was
go deep in that? Like, what do you mean by that?
straddling on the fence is when on one hand you believe in God, but on the other hand, you're sinning.
Yeah.
And you're straddling. You have to be totally obedient and righteous all together and walk a straight path. So I was straddling. On one hand, I was, selling drugs, carrying guns, and I was young, making all these mistakes. But on the other hand, every now and again I would pray. But it was that one prayer that made my ascension happen. It's when my grandmother called me and told me she needs me to pray with me, and she felt like something's gonna happen. And literally, when I prayed with her, my whole life switched. I got up the next 24 hours, came to the state of Georgia. And then when I got to Georgia, I literally got a call that somebody was coming to kill me in Brooklyn.
Wow.
And then I went through what I went through because all of the sins, that's why I tell people when you sow these seeds, all the sins that I committed prior to was chasing me here in Georgia.
Mhm.
And the devil came back to collect. But I went with God, obviously, because that 3-day coma, I was talking to God. You know what I mean? 3-day coma, like, no, Lord, no, please, please. We don't really talk to God until we near death, in prison, broke, homeless. And I was like, God, please don't let me die. And he was like, I just heard the voice clearly. And I literally saw the white lights. It was like, you're not going to die. Just take care of the world for me, and I'll give you back your life.
Yeah.
Sign on the dotted line. And I was like, yes, I will. And it felt like this, but it was 3-day coma.
See, that is a good contract to sign.
Yeah, yeah, that's the good ones.
Yeah, that's
But
a good
I've been blessed ever since, I've been blessed ever since. I've been running. I've been running. I've been running. I've been running. I've been running from what he ordained me to do. And it took for me to meet my cameraman. He actually motivated me. It was weird how we met. He motivated me and made me like get comfortable on camera. Else you guys would have never seen me. I
Mhm.
was too scared to do. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm from back in the days. We don't take pictures and we don't do all that. We don't dance in the club. We too stush for everything. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not doing this. And then he motivated me to do it. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to keep going. And that's how God works, because he sends you these angels in a weird way. And you better not push them away, because you might have pushed away your destiny. You might push away what he sent for you, the gift he sent for you.
True.
You know, yeah, he used people. That's what he do. It's something. It's okay. He use them in a good way.
Yeah. God's angels are everywhere, so I say.
Yes, ma'am.
So as we get closer and closer to the end of our podcast today, I want you to, share with us a little bit of how you got to forgive your mom, because I know when it came down to spirituality, is within spirituality you found forgiveness for your mom and for yourself and for your dad. So how did you get to that place, and how is it now?
Oh, with my mom. Oh, we cool now. Me and my mom got a great relationship, even though all the abandonment. And you know what? Excuse me. I started to realize when I found out her story,
Mm.
um, it it kind of applied to my history. You know what I mean? Make sense? You know what I mean? Like her story made sense of what's going on with my history.
Yes.
And when I realized that she went through some, devastating times as a young girl, and meeting with my dad, and then I found out, I started going around picking at the family and putting the puzzle together.
Yeah.
And this is something that a lot of young men don't do. We just like, okay, my mom said that about my dad, so that's what it is, and we leave it right there. And then we hate the dad forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or my dad said this about my mom, so my mother was no good, so we just leave it there. But when you start to really want to know what is your history, what's your background, what happened along the way, why did my mother do that? Okay, I approached my mom and I sent her a message. I was like, why did you, leave me in a foster home? She signed a document saying nobody else can get me out but her. I was dropped off in the middle of the projects in Brooklyn, New York, and Marlboro projects, out there in the Coney Island area. And it was like a death trap. And as, having to hustle at 13 years old, you know what I mean? Because the cat would eat my food before I get to it. And the foster mother had a lock on the refrigerator, the telephone, the lock on everything. She didn't give us any money. She gambled our money away. There's 2 bunk beds and a twin bed in 1 room in the projects. You know what I mean? There's a cat and a dog. The house smells horrible. You go outside, there's gang members, there's Bloods and Crips shooting and robbing and killing each other. And I had to find my way swim through all these sharks to survive. Mind you, I can't eat. So that's what forced me to go sell drugs 13. And then now when I'm like, okay, tell my dad to come get me, I'll go with him to Georgia. They're like, well, she signed a document that said nobody can get you out but her. And she doesn't even want you back right now. So it was like, what is there for me to do? I just got to make a way. And I was forced to do that. And I hated her for years and years and years and years. Oh my God. I hated her for years. And I got to add this in. This is a little off, but I'm going to give you this part. I was probably 17, and I was one of the most disciplined and one of the most dedicated hustlers in that area I was in the project. Mind you, again, so they can't indict me for nothing. I was 13. I can't get in trouble. I was 13 years old. I didn't pay my dues, right? I started at 13. At 17 years old, most of the older guys from my neighborhood, they call them OGs, that have been out there for years, would try to get me to work for them because they see I took my hustle serious. I would never leave. I hustled all day and night because I didn't have a home. There was no home for me to go to anyway. I'm sleeping on the trains, I'm sleeping in the hallway, I'm sleeping on the project bench. I'm just trying to find a home anywhere. You know what I mean? But I hustled all day and night. And, they wanted me to hustle for them. And I took the shot at one. And he gave me something to sell for him that was no good. And he wanted me to still pay him with profit. And I said, I'm not doing it because you gave me something bad. And we got into an argument. And I guess because I'm 17 and he's 30 plus, that's like me now arguing with a 17-year-old, right? And I'm lost out here coming from a foster home. He's a kid. I'm not going to take him, take that. I wouldn't even give him drugs if you had any type of morals, right? And he says to me, you're going to give me my money or else I'm going to take you out. And at that time, I'd never been threatened yet. You know what I mean? Because I always had even when I hustled in my wrongs, I had a good heart. I paid people their money. I treat the old ladies with respect and everything. And I told him, well, now I'm not going to pay you because you made a threat. So I guess we just got to do what we got to do. That hot summer day, I was on my way to go get my firearm to kill him before he killed me. Is the first time I see my mother in 5 years. She popped up like an angel out of nowhere. Yeah. And when she arrived, I couldn't believe it. I said, like, what are you doing here? And she said, I don't know, but God sent me to come get you. And I turned around and she had 2 officers that was looking for me because I had a warrant. And her sending me to jail was the greatest thing that ever happened to me because that was the first time I was going to ever commit murder. Again, these are signs of how God works in mysterious ways. Yeah. Even though I hated her in the back of that police car, because these cops have been looking for me for a year. I done skipped school. I done pistol whipped somebody. I done did all type of craziness already. You know what I mean? I've been running wild raggedy. And they looking for me like, this kid ain't been in school all year. He's out here selling drugs. And I'm in the back of the car and I'm like, how could she do this to me? After you already beat me half to death and got me in a foster home, taken away, then you come and put me in jail. It wasn't until I was standing in my same kitchen in my house where I'm at now, and something hit me, even though I forgave her, because now I understood the pieces of her puzzle of her dad wasn't there for her. He had neglected her and abused her and did certain things to my mom. I was like, wait a minute. I just realized you saved my life.
Yeah.
And see, this goes back to having a heart of a feather, because now my heart is so much lighter. I can let God work through me. And I'm like, wait a minute. She saved my life? How? If it wasn't for her, I would be just probably getting out of prison. I would have been in jail for a murder charge. And not only did she saved my life, you was open to the call because she said something told her. What is the something? That's your higher conscious. That's God. And you cared enough to take that initiative to come down to the project that you've never been to ever in your life, in the middle of the jungle, and come do what you got to do. And I hated her all these years, and I learned to forgive. And then on top of that, she was already enjoying her life in the process of when I was in the foster home. So it was like, what was all of this hate for? It was a waste of time. It was a waste of time. And this is where people understand, when you forgive and you have empathy, this is why the empaths are much more happier, you know, because we have empathy for other people in their situations. Sometimes it can hurt you, yes, but however, you can see both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So I forgave her. And that forgiveness helps me to propel to be the man that I am now. You know, my heart is much more lighter. I don't really care about what happened in the past. It happened for a reason, because it made me a better man.
Absolutely.
Long road, I know.
It's such a fascinating story and an amazing story at the same time. Also, very touchy because it's like, you know, despite everything that had happened, you only got like what I'm getting is like the lessons there was like more than anything else that you got from it, which is really nice.
Our chosen get the roughest lessons. You know that. You know he chooses he chooses the toughest soldiers, man, for those battles. You know, like, okay, you're gonna be even tougher for me, because you got to have courage to do this. You know what I mean? To sit up here and praise God, and get frowned upon, and oh, he's a square, he's a weirdo, he's too good too, and and then nowadays, he's a false prophet. He's just trying to get us out of our money. So it's like, I don't know, but I know who I work for, and I know my assignment, and I'm comfortable with it.
Totally. And thank you for all that you do, because I definitely be like watching your videos, and they're very uplifting and very motivating at the same time, you know. And me, I feel like I'm a spiritual being walking in this physical earth that we have. So being able to find someone else to connect on that level, it on social media, it's really uplifting to see that on social media, because not many of of that type of content is being put out there, and also coming from like a color and black man, you know.
Yeah,
it, it's really uplifting, because I feel like it gives hope for the young black boys or girls that are coming up, to like, if they come across your video, to see that like this is somewhere that I can be, or this is something that someone I could look up to at the
right,
same.
right. I
Yeah.
appreciate. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
let me know if you have any more. This was a good one.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
very
let me
uplifting.
put
Thank
out.
you. I want to end with, do you want to share your social media with us? Share anywhere we can connect with you. I know you also mentioned that you were starting your YouTube channel. I don't know if you started that already.
Still working on that now. We haven't
Uh,
finished that.
How can we
Yeah.
find you on TikTok? Because that's where I'm getting my juice from.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm only on TikTok right now, and I have an Instagram too, but I'll definitely send it to you. I'm not active on it because I figured that I'm gonna redo that as well. So
Okay.
I'll start with all of it, with all the work. So TikTok is where you can find me right now, because I was sent there, because it's worldwide, and I think need a lot of people to hear what I'm talking about.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I believe so too. I believe so too. Well, thank you again so much for your time. I really appreciate it. This has been an amazing conversation, and thank you for sharing all your great insights with us. I hope that whoever is listening to this podcast episode is going to get some, benefit from it. Is going to uplift someone, or allow someone to get away from whatever, you know, um, I want to say, whatever dark corner they have been holding themselves in, or whatever, whomever they haven't let go, which means forgiving them, hearing your journey. And then I hope that they can also find forgiveness in their heart to forgive whomever, and also forgive themselves for being angry at whomever they were angry at, because forgiveness is a two-way thing. You have to forgive whoever hurt you, or whoever you needed to forgive, and then you have to forgive yourself as well.
Yeah, love conquers all. That's all it
Absolutely.
is. It's just
Absolutely.
love. You gotta have more love in your heart. Love conquers all, y'all. That's all. God loves y'all, and you need to love yourself as well in order to love others. That's all. Just lead with love. It's gonna work out.
Thank you. And I was gonna say, is there any final words you want to throw out there for our listeners today?
That really was it. Honestly,
Yeah,
that's what.
that's what I was like. Okay, he
Yeah,
probably.
I know I had the closing in before the closing, right? Yeah, love conquers all, man. Yeah, take care of yourself and just stay positive, and everything will work itself out. And just spend some time with thyself, and drown out the noise. That's all. Just turn the world off for a minute to figure out, what it is that you need to do and what you're put here to do. And life becomes that much more greater. And oh yeah, on this one, I want to say that look at the glass half full instead of half empty. That'll make things much better as well. Be more optimistic instead of pessimistic.
I love
Right?
that. I love that. Thank you again. Thank you for all your gems. Thank you to everyone that's listening to Self Reflection Podcast. If this is your first time coming across Self Reflection Podcast, you can find it on any platform you get your podcast from: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud. Also, the link is on my Instagram bio. You can connect with me at Lira, Lira underscore Ndifon. Again, that is Lira, Lira underscore Ndifon. I hope you guys have a blessed day. Take care of yourself, love yourself, be kind, and be gentle with yourself. Until next time.